My name is Michal, Princess of Israel, daughter of a king, wife of a legend, and the only woman in the entire Bible explicitly said to have fallen in love. They never tell you what comes after the happily ever after. They don't tell you the ever after can be a prison. This is my story, the one they left in the shadows. Welcome to Bible Behind the Scenes. It began not with a love song, but with a war chant. Two armies, one of them frozen in a valley with fear, and one giant, Goliath, a mountain of bronze and hatred, screaming curses at us for 40 days. My father, King Saul, a man once chosen by God, was now a shell of fear. The spirit had left him, and only a trembling dread remained. His solution was a desperate bargain. He stood before his commanders, his voice echoing in the tense silence of the war council. "The man who kills Goliath," he declared, "will receive great riches, tax-free status for his family, and my daughter's hand in marriage." I was in the gardens when I heard the news. My heart did not flutter with romantic hope. It sunk for my sister. I was not the only daughter. I had an older sister, Merab. The prize, the political pawn, was meant to be her. The offer was for the king's daughter, and as the eldest, she was the obvious choice. I remember the strange, hollow feeling in my stomach. It was the understanding that my fate and hers were just another piece of my father's strategy, a reward for an act of suicidal bravery. Did anyone ask Merab? Of course not. We were assets, not people. Our feelings were irrelevant ledger entries in the kingdom's accounts. Then he came. David, a shepherd boy, all sun-brown skin and bright, fierce eyes, here only to bring bread and cheese to his older brothers. He heard the giant's taunts, saw our army's paralysis, and something in him ignited. He wasn't a soldier. He had no armor, but he had a sling, 5 smooth stones, and a terrifying, absolute faith. I wasn't there in the valley, but I heard the roar that shook the very foundations of the mountains. A single stone, a single shot. The giant fell. The Philistine army scattered. Israel erupted. David, the boy, was now David, the national hero. My father brought him to the palace. The air crackled with celebration, and something darker, something unspoken. David stood before the king, holding Goliath's own sword, humble yet radiating a power my father had lost. Saul had to honor his vow. But which daughter? The promise was suddenly a problem. The people were singing a new song, a dangerous, catchy tune that wormed its way into the city's soul. Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s, they sang. Can you imagine? You are the king, and this ruddy-faced boy is getting your praise. My father's jealousy, that green-eyed monster, began to uncoil in his heart. He saw a way out. He offered David my sister, Merab. It was the logical, promised move, but my father was already playing a deeper game. He told David, "Here is my eldest daughter, Merab. I will give her to you as your wife. Only be valiant for me and fight the Lord's battles." But the unspoken thought was clear. He hoped David would die fighting his battles. The Philistines were not gone. They were enraged. What better way to dispose of this popular young rival than to send him to the front lines with a crown on his head?
But David, ever humble, ever perplexing, refused, wondering how his humble family could become the king's in-laws. But the marriage was simply never finalized. The Bible is vague, a single verse that hints at a promise broken. But it came to pass at the time when Merab, Saul's daughter, should have been given to David, that she was given to Adriel the Mahalathite to wife. 1 Samuel 18:19. Just like that, my sister was given to another man. The prize was withdrawn. Was it an insult? A change of strategy? I never knew. I only saw Merab leave. Her own fate decided without a word, a lesson in the fragility of a woman's worth in my father's court. And that's when everything shifted to me. I was watching, always watching, from the palace arches, from the shaded courtyards. I saw David not as the giant slayer, but as the young man who played the harp to soothe my father's torment. I saw the light in his eyes when he spoke of the Lord. I saw a courage that was not brutish, but spiritual. It was a quiet, steady flame next to my father's flickering, paranoid candle. And the Bible says it, plain as day, a declaration so rare it echoes through the silence of Scripture. Now Michal, Saul's daughter, loved David. 1 Samuel 18:20. My love wasn't an afterthought. It wasn't a political arrangement. It was the catalyst. When my father heard the reports, the Princess Michal loves him, he didn't see a daughter's heart. He saw a new trap. His mind, poisoned by fear, began to spin a new web. He would use my affection as the bait. He summoned David, his voice slick with false generosity. "You shall be my son-in-law today." David, ever the pragmatist, was bewildered. Who am I? What is my life, or my father's family in Israel, that I should be son-in-law to the king? My father's smile was thin. "I don't want a bride price of silver or gold. Only bring me 100 Philistine foreskins, vengeance on the king's enemies." 1 Samuel 18:25. The court was silent. 100 foreskins, 100 dead enemies. It was a death warrant, a suicide mission dressed in royal finery. My father's thought process was brutally simple. The Philistines will kill him for me. I stood there, my love for David now a weapon in my father's hand. I was a string on his bow, pulled taut, aimed at the heart of the man I loved. The horror of it was a cold stone in my stomach. But David, he was not afraid. He was motivated by love, by ambition, by a fierce desire to prove his worth. I like to think it was out of love for me. He took his men. He went out into enemy territory, and he didn't just survive. He triumphed. He came back not with 100, but with 200. 1 Samuel 18:27. He doubled the demand, an overachiever to the very end. He laid them before the king, a gruesome, undeniable testament to God's favor and his own wild courage. My father was trapped. The wedding happened. For a moment, a single breathless moment, the web was broken. The trap had failed. The prize was truly mine. The love was real. It was a fire in my heart, warming the cold stones of the palace. I was David's wife. He was my husband. It was enough. It didn't last. The poison was still there. The song kept playing. Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. My father's obsession grew darker, more personal. He could no longer hide it. I was there one evening. David was playing the harp, the music a balm on the troubled air. My father sat, his face a mask of tension. I saw his knuckles whiten on the shaft of his spear. I saw the madness flicker in his eyes. Suddenly, with a guttural roar, he hurled the spear at David. "I will pin David to the wall," he screamed. David, agile as a cat, dodged. The spear slammed into the wall where he had been sitting. The music died. The silence was louder than any scream. He tried it again. Another day, another failed attempt. He sent David on more and more dangerous military missions, hoping a Philistine arrow would find its mark where his own spear had failed. David kept winning. God was with him. And my father, he finally, completely snapped. The night it all changed. It was late. The palace was asleep, but I was awake. I had learned to listen, to watch, to sense the shifts in the political winds. I heard the whispers in the corridors, the quiet gathering of my father's most loyal guards. Then the sound, boots on stone, outside our house. My blood ran cold. They were here, assassins, sent by my own flesh and blood. Their orders were simple: surround the house, watch every door, wait for morning. Kill my husband at first light. Panic was a live thing, clawing at my throat, but a deeper, fiercer instinct took over. Love. Protection. I ran to David, shook him awake, my voice a sharp, urgent whisper in the darkness. David, if you don't escape tonight, you're dead by morning. His eyes, wide in the gloom, met mine. There was no time for long goodbyes, no time for tears. This was action. I had a plan. A rope, stored away for who knows what purpose. A window that faced a dark, narrow alley. I tied the rope, my hands slick with sweat, fumbled but held fast. I helped him climb out, his hands in mine for one last fleeting moment. Then, nothing. The rope went slack. He was gone, swallowed by the night. But I wasn't done. I had to buy him time. Every minute was a mile between him and death. I looked around our room. My eyes fell on the household idols. Yes, we had them. My father's house was spiritually complicated. A teraphim, a human-shaped figure. I grabbed it. I carried it to our bed. I arranged the blankets and clothes over it, sculpting the form of a sleeping man. I took goat hair from a nearby basket and carefully placed it at the head, a crude imitation of David's unruly locks. My masterpiece, a dummy husband, a deception born of desperation. The knock came at dawn, hard, insistent. I smoothed my robes, took a breath, and opened the door, my face a mask of wifely concern. "David is sick," I said, my voice laced with feigned worry. "He had a terrible fever in the night. He cannot be disturbed." They hesitated. They peered past me into the dim room, saw the form in the bed, and withdrew. They reported to my father. I can still hear his roar echoing from the palace. "Bring him to me in his bed! I will kill him myself!" The men returned. This time, they did not ask. They pushed past me, stormed into the bedroom, and ripped the covers away. And found a statue, a silent, mocking piece of stone and wood. The deception was over. My father stood before me, King Saul, the man I had betrayed. His face was purple with rage, his body trembling. His voice was deadly, cold, ice. "Why have you deceived me like this? Why did you let my enemy escape?" My mind raced. My survival instinct, sharpened by years in this court, took over. A lie, smooth and convincing, fell from my lips. "He threatened me," I said, letting a tremor enter my voice. "He told me, 'Help me escape or I will kill you.'" It was a lie, a necessary, gut-wrenching lie. But what was I supposed to do? Tell the truth? Admit I loved my husband more than I loved and feared my father, the king? I had chosen. I had chosen David over my father, over my king, over my own security. And what did I get from my loyalty, from my courage? Silence. David was gone, fled to the wilderness, building his army of outcasts and desperate men in the caves of Adullam. And he never came back for me. Not a single messenger, not a whispered plan from a loyal spy, no attempt to rescue the woman who had saved his life. Nothing. The silence from the wilderness was louder than any celebration. I was alone in the lion's den, the daughter of the king who had defied the king, and the punishment was coming. Years passed, long, empty years. I was a ghost in the palace, a living reminder of my father's failure and my own treason. And then the final crushing betrayal. My father decided David was never coming back. He decided I was wasted, a widow to a living man. So he disposed of me. 1 Samuel 25:44. The verse is the monument to my powerlessness. Saul had given Michal his daughter, David's wife, to Pulpit of Gallim. Just like that, I was property, transferred to a new owner. A political statement. The house of Saul has severed all ties with David. Did David fight for me? Did he send a raiding party? Did he even send a letter of protest? The Bible is silent.
He was busy. He was building his kingdom in Hebron. He was marrying other women. Ahinoam, Abigail. 1 Samuel 25:42 through 43. His life was expanding, filling with new loves, new alliances. My life was being erased. I had poured my love into a future that vanished like mist. I was the first wife, yet I became the forgotten one. If you have ever loved and been replaced, then you know my pain. And if this story is stirring something deep inside you, do not look away. Show me you understand by liking this video and subscribing to this channel. Comment, "I feel you," and share your story in the comments. Because my downfall reveals something powerful about how our unhealed wounds cripple our souls. My choice sealed my fate, but my story can free yours. It will transform your understanding of the devastating cost of bitterness, and you will want to hear more tales of faith and failure, of redemption and warning that speak directly to your life, just as mine does. I was given to Pulpit, a good man, a kind man from the hills. The Bible doesn't record my feelings for him. It doesn't tell you if I grew to care for his quiet, steady presence. It doesn't tell you if I resented him for being a living symbol of my abandonment. But it does record his feelings. Remember that. He was a simple man, not a king or a hero, and he loved me. He treated me with a tenderness I had not known. There were no political games, no looming assassins, just the simple rhythm of a life. It wasn't the passionate, world-altering love I had felt for David. It was quieter. It was safer. And in its own way, it was real. More years passed. My father and brothers died on the slopes of Mount Gilboa, a tragic, bloody end. David wept for them, even as the path to the throne was now clear. He became king in Hebron, and then he remembered me. Not with a longing heart, not with a guilty conscience, with cold, hard political calculation. David was negotiating to rule all of Israel, both Judah and the northern tribes loyal to my father's house. He needed legitimacy, a connection to the previous dynasty, a symbol that he was not a usurper, but the rightful heir. I was that symbol, that connection, a political tool to be reacquired. He sent the message to my brother Ishbosheth, the weak king my father's general had put on the throne. It was not a request. It was a demand. Give me my wife Michal, whom I betrothed to myself for 100 foreskins of the Philistines. My wife. I paid for her. The language of a merchant, not a lover. The language of ownership. So they came for me again. The king's men arrived at my home with Pulpit. They told me I was leaving.
My life was being uprooted again. And here is the moment that should break your heart. The moment the Bible grants a voice to the man I was being taken from. 2 Samuel 3:15-16 says, Ishbosheth sent and took her from her husband, from Paltiel the son of Laish. But her husband went with her, weeping after her all the way to Bahurim. Paltiel, this good, simple man, he followed the procession, his heart breaking with every step. He wept openly, unashamedly. He loved me. He actually loved me. He was losing the life we had built, and he was forced to stand by and watch it be stolen. Finally, Abner, David's commander, had had enough. Go back home, he ordered, and Paltiel, with no power, no army, no rights, turned around and went home, alone. Did I want to go? Did I scream to stay? Did I look back at Paltiel with pity, with love, with regret? The Bible doesn't say. But what do you think? I can tell you that my voice didn't matter. I was a piece on the board being moved back to its original square to secure checkmate. I returned to David's palace in Hebron. He was a king now, confident, powerful, surrounded by other wives, many children, a bustling court of sycophants and soldiers. I was just one of many, a trophy from his past, a symbol of his legitimacy, the returned property. The passionate love I had felt for him, it was a ghost. It had been buried under years of silence, under the weight of his abandonment, under the genuine affection I had known with Paltiel. All that was left was the ash of memory and the cold, hard reality of my situation. I was a stranger in my own husband's house, a living monument to a story that had ended long ago. And then came the day everything shattered for good. The Ark of the Covenant was coming to Jerusalem. David had captured the city and made it his capital, and now the most sacred object in Israel, the very throne of God's presence, was being brought home. The city erupted in a frenzy of celebration. It was a national holiday, a spiritual revival. The sound was overwhelming. Trumpets, cymbals, shouting, singing. The streets were a river of joyful humanity. And there was David at the very center of it all, dancing. Not a royal measured dance, a wild, abandoned, leaping, spinning whirl of pure, unfiltered joy. 2 Samuel 6:14 says he was wearing a linen ephod, a simple priestly garment, little more than a loincloth. He had stripped off his royal robes. He was king, yet he was a servant before God. He was practically naked in his worship, unconcerned with dignity, with appearances, with what anyone thought. In front of the servants, the maids, the common people, everyone. And I was watching from a window, always from a window. I looked down at him. The man I had loved enough to defy a king. The man I had saved from certain death. The man who left me to face the consequences alone. The man who only took me back to strengthen his political claim. And all the years of pain, the abandonment, the humiliation, the loss of Paltiel, the loneliness of this gilded palace. It boiled over. It fermented into a toxic, bitter contempt that filled my heart to bursting. 2 Samuel 6:16 says, I had contempt in my heart for him. When he came home, radiant and full of divine ecstasy, wanting to bless his household, I was waiting at the door.
and I unleashed it all, every ounce of stored up venom. How the King of Israel has distinguished himself today. My voice dripped with sarcasm, each word a shard of ice. Uncovering himself today in the eyes of his servants' maids, as one of the vulgar fellows shamelessly uncovers himself. 2 Samuel 6:20. It wasn't about worship. It was about every wound he had ever given me. It was the rage of a woman who had been used, bartered, and made invisible.
David's response wasn't gentle. It wasn't understanding. It was a dagger, expertly aimed at the deepest part of my pain. "It was before the Lord," he said, his voice cold and sharp, his joy replaced by a king's wrath. "Who chose me instead of your father and all his house to appoint me as ruler over the people of the Lord, over Israel. Therefore I will celebrate before the Lord. I will make myself yet more contemptible than this, and I will be abased in my own eyes. But by the maids of whom you have spoken, by them I shall be held in honor." Did you catch it? He didn't address my pain. He didn't say, "Michal, I'm sorry I left you." He didn't acknowledge his role in my suffering. He invoked God. He invoked his divine right to the throne my father lost. He threw my father's failure in my face. And then, with surgical precision, he threw the servant girls back at me, the very ones I had criticized him for dancing before. He said they would honor him, while his own wife despised him. It was a final, brutal dismissal. He was saying, "Your opinion is worthless. Your pain is irrelevant. God is with me, not you. You are your father's daughter, a relic of a rejected house. I am the future." That was the last conversation we ever had. The end of our story. The love that began with a daring rescue ended with a slammed door of the heart. And the Bible delivers the final devastating blow with stark simplicity. And Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no child to the day of her death. No children. In a world where a woman's worth, her legacy, her very security was measured in sons. No future, no piece of David's dynasty, no part in the royal line that would lead to the Messiah. A barren queen in a crowded palace. The ultimate silence. Was it God's judgment for criticizing true worship, or was it simply the natural, tragic consequence of a marriage that had been dead for years, a relationship so broken that even physical intimacy was impossible? We don't know. The text leaves it hauntingly open. But the message is clear. Bitterness, however justified, leads to barrenness. It closes doors that can never be reopened.
So what do you do with my story? David is called a man after God's own heart. 1 Samuel 13:14, Acts 13:22, and he treated me terribly. The Bible doesn't hide it. It doesn't sanitize its heroes. It forces you to wrestle with the uncomfortable truth that great faith and great failure can exist in the same person. Here's the truth behind the scenes, the lesson from the shadows. A great purpose does not excuse personal cruelty. David was anointed by God, a mighty king, a psalmist whose words still comfort millions, and he still failed as a husband. He used me. He abandoned me. He dismissed me. Love cannot survive without respect. I was a prize to be won, then a pawn to be strategically moved, then a symbol to be reclaimed. I was never his partner. I was an object in his story. And bitterness? It doesn't spring up from nothing. It grows in the soil of neglect and betrayal. It is watered by broken promises and fed by silence. My contempt that day didn't come from a petty heart. It came from a heart that had been shattered piece by piece over years. My story is a warning about what happens when women are treated as property in a patriarchal game. A warning about the devastating cost of letting your wounds silence your worship. That day at the window, I had a choice. I could have looked past David, the man who hurt me, and seen a child of God, abandoned in joyful praise. I could have seen a sacred moment for the nation, but all I could see was my own reflection in the glass, a woman betrayed, abandoned, and used. My pain became a filter that distorted everything, turning a national miracle into a personal insult. My contempt was human. It was understandable, but it cost me everything. It isolated me in my pain forever. Don't make my mistake. Your pain is real. Your betrayal is valid. Your wounds are deep. But don't let them poison your purpose. Don't let them build a prison around your heart. Don't let your wounds keep you from the window and block out the light.
So the next time you hear about King David, the hero, the giant slayer, the man after God's own heart, remember me, Michal, the princess who dared to love, the woman who saved a king, the wife who was discarded, the voice that cried out in anger and was silenced forever. I watched from the window as my life became a story I never meant to tell. My voice was stifled, but my story remains. And it asks you a question that echoes through the centuries. Whose heart are you breaking on your way to your destiny? Thanks for watching Bible Behind the Scenes. If this story made you think, hit subscribe, share this video, because these stories aren't just history, they're mirrors, and sometimes the reflection is uncomfortable. I'll see you in the next one.